over here, we're back with more Expect the Unexpected by Arctic Vulpix. We are on chapter 28. Last time we had a little incident. Ruby ended up running into Hedy, so Toy Bonnie took her. I don't know if he was I can't remember if he was supposed to take her to a specific place, or what. But he ended up taking her to the room where the originals and Goldie are. And he's basically left her there, unfortunately, and she's terrified of the originals, especially, I think she's terrified of Foxy the most. Yeah. So that kind of happened last chapter. I believe we're finishing off the rest of night 4. Um, so, yeah. And if you want to follow along, link to the chapter will be in the description below, as always. So let's get started. Chapter 28. Talks. Hedy stiffened as a large shadow fell over her. She swallowed nervously and looked up to see Chica standing next to her, looking equally nervous. "Are you okay?" Chica muttered, not looking Hedy in the eye. Not that Hedy noticed. She could look at Chica directly either. Uh-huh. She couldn't even make words at first. She cleared her throat. "Yes," she squeaked, and winced at the sound. Chica looked like she wanted to say something else, but suddenly thought better of it. She turned to walk back to the others, who were all still staring at the mechanic. They hadn't even unpaused the movie yet. Suddenly, her numb mind remembered something important. Uh, actually, she swallowed nervously again. We, left my chair and my bag in the hallway. Would one of you mind getting it for me, please?" Well, that was awkward. The bots all looked at each other, silently daring one of them to volunteer. That is, until Goldie rolled her eyes. "I got it," she said, before teleporting away. She was back a second later, popping in next to Hedy and staring at the really bad dent in the wheelchair. "How the heck are you going to use this?" she asked incredulously. "I can't. I'm going to have to send it into the manufacturer and use my spare that's at home," she said bitterly, forgetting her fear for the moment. She really liked that chair. It was relatively expensive, and was customized with silver rims and faint blue pieces shaped like lightning bolts for the spokes. A little fancy for her, but if she was going to be stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of her life, it might as well look good. Plus, it had been a birthday present. "Oh, did Ruby really do this?" "Accident. She was running and turned the corner without looking." Hedy frowned. "She was limping a bit. I hope it doesn't slow her down." "The last wouldn't need to worry about being slow if your pals didn't want to kill her," Foxy snapped. "Foxy," Freddie said warningly as he pushed play. He stifled a yelp at Foxy's snap and looked down. She absent-mindedly turned the broken wheel. It would be very bad if the toys caught Ruby because she ran into Hedy. Goldie looked at her for a second more, then went back to her place hovering over Bunny as she read. "She'll be fine, Foxy," she assured as she turned the page. After Hedy managed to calm her heart rate again, she listened to try and figure out what they were watching. Just couldn't hear properly. Goldie didn't really seem to be paying attention, though, since she was reading a Harry Potter book. She couldn't see which one it was, though. Actually, the only thing she could see was the animatronics. She really was going to strangle that rabbit. Could have at least put her where she could see the screen. Bonnie couldn't concentrate on the movie anymore. The mechanic was right there. He was already having flashbacks. He determinedly stared at the wall, trying not to think about it. Foxy was glancing at him in concern now and then. Chica occasionally looked at Hedy with uncertainty, while Freddie was completely caught up in the movie. Goldie just floated above him, reading her book. The girl shifted her weight and his ear twitched. "I could Toy Bonnie put her in a different room." He really tried really hard to ignore them, or rather the movie. Finally, she strained to see again, but huffed in frustration when she couldn't, making Bonnie jump at her noise. In an effort to distract herself, she discreetly pulled her reading tablet out and turned it on. It chirped quietly and she winked, thinking the animatronics would notice. They didn't, though Foxy's ears swiveled back. The tablet didn't have much besides books, but it did have an internet connection. Praying that they wouldn't notice, he typed in the password for the pizzeria and opened an app she got from the manager. A second later, she had access to the security feeds. She flipped through the feeds, winking at the sound, while looking at the others. Her heart caught in her throat and she tensed as she found Ruby and Toy Chica. Toy Chica was holding Ruby's wrist and seemed to be scowling at her, but he did relax again as Ruby just laughed and threw something at the already glitter-covered chicken. The feed chose that moment to cut out, and a second later, an explosion echoed down the hall along with a high-pitched scream. That was Toy Chica, Goldie noted, while Foxy chuckled and made a tally mark on the clipboard sitting next to him. Freddie shushed him. Wait, what? You're keeping score? She asked before she could stop herself. Foxy threw a glare at her while Goldie chuckled. We've got a betting pool on who gets hit the most, she grinned. Hedy gapped at them. They had to be kidding. There was someone's life at stake. Why are you all treating this like a game? She asked, the words just slipping out at this point. Foxy just huffed and annoyed her. Freddie muttered something under his breath about movie etiquette and paused the movie again. Bonnie was still stubbornly not looking at her. Chica glanced over at her again and away. We know what she's capable of, Freddie shrugged. If we worry too much, she would take it as an insult to her abilities. The lass is more than capable of taking care of herself. Foxy grudgingly joined the conversation, though he still wasn't looking at her. Chica nodded timidly while glancing at Bonnie. The rabbit was just staring at the wall. The toys don't have the same experience that we had, Goldie said, struggling to explain it without talking about uncomfortable topics. I'm not doubting her ability, he said quietly, but shivered at what the bear meant. Experience. Right. Ruby had said something similar, but Hedy had forgotten to tell her about. She cleared her throat. What makes you think of that? They looked at her just a little bit longer. Never before had Hedy wanted to shrink into nothingness so much. After a long pause, Freddie answered. They only worked for about a month, as entertainers and otherwise. We did this for a lot longer while they were in storage. Uh-oh. She really debated telling them. They were stored in a warehouse. So? Bonnie actually looked at her suspiciously now. A pretty expensive third-party warehouse that rents to large corporations who wants to store expensive stuff. Oh, she really wished she could keep her mouth shut. What? Someone thought they were worth something? Foxy said sarcastically. What are you watching? He said, trying to abruptly change the subject to something that was harmless. Oh, no, Chica said warningly. Taking away the remote from Freddie, he wanted to end the conversation and start the movie again. She pointed at the mechanic. Don't do that. What did you mean? That's it. They were going to kill her and stuff her in a suit, and her family would never know what happened. The warehouse used to employ night guards, she said. 7 years ago, they decided it would be simpler to spend $1 million on a high-tech self-automatic system instead of lawsuits. They, never figured it out. There was a lot of stuff from a lot of different companies there. It didn't take them long to get it. Oh, Freddie said, before trying to get the remote back. The others didn't look as calm. They actually seemed pretty angry. Foxy snarled, making her flinch back. We were cutting them some slack, since we thought they hadn't killed before. But they have? They're still doing this? No one's even forcing them, and they still? She muttered angrily. Goldie had lowered her book and was glaring at the floor. Do they even understand what they're doing? Bonnie was glaring a hole in the wall and clenching and unclenching his fists. They have a choice, he muttered. They have a choice, and they're still continuing this nightmare? He stared at them in confusion. They seemed to have forgotten that she was there. She was even there. Freddie was even looking angry, although he was keeping more calm than anyone else. Silence descended on the room. Finally, Freddie spoke, deciding it wasn't the best time to start his movie again. How do you know this? He asked. Not for the first time in her life, he wished she could just disappear. They, uh, told me, she murmured. They told you, he repeated coldly. Hedy nodded, the knowledge of how utterly helpless she was in this moment finally sinking in. What do you mean, they had a choice? She asked, honestly confused. I'm not done, Freddie said, refusing to answer her. They told you. What I don't get is why they would even trust or even speak with an adult, much less tell you that. They were listening now, at least. He hesitated, but didn't give him an immediate answer. I I was very stupid. When? When I first took the job, a guy showed up at my door looking for my dad, but he found me and offered me the job. She took a deep breath. I told him I couldn't do it since I had school, and he asked if I would be willing to pull night hours fixing them up. I agreed. Nice one, Goldie sighed. Then I accidentally got locked in by the automatic system when I stayed a little too long to look around the place. She winced. They, didn't react well, and, the puppet liked following me around a lot. Freaked me out. His music box was broken, and I didn't know any of the rules. But they didn't attack the first night. So they hunted you, and you weren't even a night guard, Freddie growled. Not even at the pizzeria, Goldie muttered. I hope Ruby really gives it to them tonight. She could glare at nothing. Somewhere in the building, Ruby suddenly got a sour feeling and hit Toy Bonnie extra hard. Stupid Barbies, she muttered, before stomping off. Bonnie had gone back to stare at the wall, but it was clear that the whole group was furious with the toys. Not her, for some reason, but the toys. They still hadn't given her an answer about the no choice comment, though. But did she really want to bother them when they were this angry? Leave it for her later, she thought to herself. Well, it really wasn't terrible. I mean, I thought it was awful at the time, but looking back, it's like they were conflicted. I, uh, they wanted to kill me, but at the same time, they didn't think it was fair since I couldn't run. So they held back sometimes. But they also, it was weird. Like they wanted me to come back every night. They're never going to admit it, but I think they were lonely. She snapped. She snapped her mouth closed. Why on earth was she telling them this? Lonely, Freddie repeated again. They they didn't have kids to play with. I think it helped them to actually have something to look forward to, even if it was trying to kill me. They didn't know I was there to fix them though. They thought I was the night guard. They were quiet for another moment. Freddie, Chica, and Goldie at least seemed to be thoughtful. Foxy and Bonnie were still radiating hostility. Suddenly, Ruby came skidding into the room, giggling like a maniac. I love my job, she snickered, and she slumped into a nearby chair. Their demeanor changed a lot when she came in. Having fun last? Foxy chuckled. Ruby glanced over at Hedy before nodding with a smirk. Tonight break. So what's going on here? Not much. He sighed tiredly, and rested her dirty blonde head in her hand, and put her elbow on the table. Ruby in the room made her feel mentally exhausted. Just talking, and obsessing about a movie that she can't see because of a stupid rabbit robot. For some reason, she was just a teensy bit less scared of the original now. Or, at least, less scared of Freddy, Chica, and Goldie. It was strange, but it was like talking to anyone besides the toys about what happened at the warehouse. It was comforting, even if she barely mentioned it to them. And while she wasn't comfortable with them being so angry with her friends, it was understandable why they were. And maybe it helped that they didn't seem particularly angry at her. It was more like they were all suspicious of her at varying levels. It was probably because she was a 20-year-old adult. Her dad had said that they were usually worried with adults compared to children. Ruby ignored her, leaving Hedy feeling a slightly bit miffed and waiting for one of the others to say something. Just talking to Miss Hedy about the toys, Chica answered truthfully. Hedy wasn't sure, but she felt like the animatronics wouldn't want her to tell Ruby about the toys' experience at the warehouse, with her as a target or otherwise. Or maybe it was just her not wanting to tell. Hedy liked to keep certain things to herself. A lot of certain things. What happened at the warehouse was something she would tell if they did ask, which the bots had, while Ruby hadn't. And honestly, even though she was being reckless, immature, and seeming uncaring about a little thing called her life, Ruby seemed to be doing fine without warnings, and would mangle out with the so-called game. She did seem to limp a little, though. On a side note, what was with the mistitle? I just needed to teach them. Katie groaned and closed her eyes like she had a headache. They're getting a hang of it, though. At least Toy Chica is. She sighed and looked at them sideways. I understand why you think they're annoying most of the time. I'm not going to deny it. I swear I've acted like a mom half the time with their childness, childness, childness. Sorry, it just sounds weird when I'm saying it. Anyway, which is ironic since I wouldn't even know what a mom is supposed to do since I didn't know mine. Actually, I think I count as a big sister. To Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica at least. I knew it! Marie cried out. They are children. Or teenagers at least. He looked at her weird, not sure what she was talking about. Uh, you do know that they are literally about 15 years old. Oh, Marie shrugged. Moving on, I think I broke the oven. They stared at her for a moment before they reacted. Foxy and Bonnie started laughing, the hostility emanating off of them evaporating. Chica groaned and muttered about her kitchen always being a target. Goldie looked interested, while Freddie pinched between his eyes. How? He asked, trying to keep calm. She grinned evenly, till Bonnie got his head stuck in there. When I left, he was still stuck. She snickered. How did you manage that? Goldie asked. Ruby hummed in thought. Not sure, actually, she admitted. He called me short, and then he was in the oven. Ah, rage back out, Foxy chuckled. She nodded, looking highly amused. He looked slightly horrified. And then again, not entirely surprised. When did this become normal, or at least unsurprising? It was, it was actually pretty funny. He needed to do her job, which meant checking something in this case. Um, excuse me? She asked, trying to get their attention. Ruby looked over her at her in annoyance. What? She asked grudgingly. She didn't want to listen to a lecture on safety again. What he said next actually surprised her. Is his head still attached? Ruby stalled and blinked. What? She asked. Is his head still attached to his body? Bonnie actually had to stifle a laugh, the bots understanding what the mechanic meant. Normally, Hedy would check on Toy Bonnie herself, and she was hesitant to give Ruby prank fodder. But at the moment, she was stuck where she was, and Toy Bonnie was possibly decapitated. Ruby crossed her arms and hardened her glare. He was still yelling like a diva when I left. He's fine. I'm not gonna kill him, unless he's extra annoying. Ruby bit her lip. That's not what she meant last, Foxy wheezed, laughing harder. Ruby rolled her eyes as Hedy tugged on a strand of hair. Then what did she mean? She asked, annoyed. Our heads come off last. For maintenance? Foxy explained with a snicker. He'll be fine without his head, actually. Ruby stared at him for a moment before a dangerous light sparked in her eyes. "The praying opportunity just opens up," she murmured. "Oh dear," she whispered to Freddie. "I don't think this is a good idea." "Well, I don't think the Barbie rabbit did that," Ruby finally said. "Besides, Barbie Bear was outside the kitchen when I ran out." She was absently rotating her wrist, and he remembered seeing Toy Chica grabbing that wrist when she was watching the cameras. "Good," she said, referring to Toy Bonnie. She really did not. She really didn't need a repeat of the warehouse elevator incident. "I have one of those chemical ice packs in my first aid kit if you want it," she offered to Ruby after a moment. Ruby looked at her oddly. "What do you mean? Why would I want one of those?" She frowned, more in confusion than anything else. He glared at her mildly. "For your wrists? I know better than anyone how strong their grips are. You don't take care of it, it might swell up. Then good luck going back crazy." She pointed at Betty, who had fallen to the floor. "Oh dear." When did she start thinking of the bat as a hue? Ruby had misplaced insanity was infectious. Ruby actually laughed at her. "I ran around with bruised ribs and a completely sprained wrist before, and I still won. A little pulled muscle isn't going to slow me down. I also spent most of that night running around with cuts, all the way down my back." She waved Hedy off. She also didn't seem to notice the guilty flinches from all the thoughts. Goldie looked at them in sympathy. He stared at her in disbelief. Not about the winning part, but oh, did she want to knock some sense into someone for being so arrogant. Never mind reckless. Toy Bonnie had an immature kind of arrogance, but Ruby was a weird, dangerous to herself kind. Considering the fact that it was obviously the originals who hurt her, what kind of person bragged about scars her friends gave her? He didn't show off the scars the toys gave her. In a more selfish way, it annoyed Hedy that Ruby was refusing her honest help. "Fine," she said shortly with a nod, annoyed. Ruby stayed a little longer before leaving to cause trouble again, and the bots watched the rest of the bear movie in silence. When 6 rolled around, Ruby left with a cheery goodbye while the toys searched frantically for a missing toy Bonnie. The originals just found it hilarious and watched. They found him eventually, although he refused to tell anyone how he'd gotten stuck in the refrigerator. Ruby tossed her bag down on the floor when she got to her room and prepared to get some rest. Something odd caught her eye, though. Her bag was slightly open. She pulled out a package that hadn't been there before and frowned. "Nosy mechanic," she muttered as she grudgingly wrapped it around her menacingly stinging wrist. And that's the end of chapter 28. So, we basically it was like a talk between toys, like, and the originals and TV, and I guess finding out a little more about toys experience. So, and that, yeah. So, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. Be sure to subscribe. I upload new videos every Friday. And don't comment. Leave a review on the story because the author deserves love. Go do that and then comment and let me know what you think. But go story first, review first. If you don't have an account, that is fine. You can be a guest. You can leave a review as a guest. The author just can't respond to you personally. Is all. That's all. But go, leave a review. Go. Shoot. Go. I'll still be here when you get back. But yeah, and we'll see you next Friday with a new video.